accept the agenda. I move
Subject
this-
matter of the meeting is to discuss amending the municipal budget for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020 regarding an expenditure to Coast Transit Authority in the amount of $45,000.
I move to accept the agenda.
Mr. Bynum.
I'll second it.
All in favor? I vote. All right. Do you want to say anything?
Well, this is the workshop that was called prior to our normal meeting, and I think we have a quorum and move forward with the subject at hand. 1:30 meeting, we'll give a report on what we need to do from an emergency stand. Maybe at the end of this workshop, we could call for, I guess, based on Stafford Act and things we need to do in order to move forward with the coronavirus situation. We'll ask for a state of emergency. We do that in a regular scheduled meeting?
It's part of the, it's item 4G on the regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an addition to
You got to be way in the green. You got to have some good luck coming. That's it.
No report.
Mr.
No report.
No report.
No reports. So do we want to ask him questions? Do we need to hear anything from him, or anyone have any questions for Mr. Coggin?
Well, under the circumstances we have right now, it's pretty difficult to be doing anything since we in a state of emergency. And we actually, at the rate we go on, could lose $2.5 million a month with the casino shut down and tax bases. So it's pretty tough to be doing things. So we have to make sure we can take care of the citizens. I know the city's going to do everything they can, but I mean, it's just tough right now to be putting out any extra money at all. So that's just my quick answer to everything. But anybody welcome to ask the questions they want, that's fine.
My comment would be that at some point this virus run is going to be over, whether it's just a couple of weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, whatever. The issue is still going to remain, do we continue the Beachcomber route or not? So we've kicked the can down the road for 5 or 6, 7 months at this point. And I would think that there were several questions at the last council meeting. I don't know if we had answers. Certainly, I don't think Mr. Coggin had the information. I see he has a lot of information in front of him today. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. But the issue is not going to go away. Either we continue to run the Beachcomber route 6 days a week, or it's going to cut back to 2 days a week, whether that begins a week from now, 5 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, 2 months from now, anytime during this fiscal year. And then when this fiscal year ends, guess what? We start another fiscal year. So the issue, the question is not disappearing. I think it needs to be resolved today at the 1:30 meeting, but certainly this is an opportunity to ask any questions that any of us might have. Thank you.
I'd like to make the following comments, of course. We're in unprecedented times. Thursday, the whole complexion of what we were planning to do and what we were going to do is a lot different than as we sit here less than a week from last Thursday. This is certainly an important topic. Public transit is very important and essential to getting employees, tourists, and our local community to and from their points of interest and the different attractions and different areas of need for them. However, as I mentioned earlier, these are unprecedented times. We're trying to react as quickly as we can to this terrible virus. Things change not by the hour, but almost by the minute. And as important as this topic is, I don't know how we can, we're going to have to secure all the funding and all the resources that we have currently to take care of the needs and the deficits that we may incur. So I don't know. We can have this workshop and talk about things, but I don't know how we can today vote to allocate additional expenditures when we may need those resources for other things. Thank you.
Yeah, echoing behind Councilman Glavin, we're in precedented times at this point. I pondered this over after we made the last decision to table it and thought there was a need. However, now the casinos are shut down. So how long, we don't know. And should we spend that extra $45,000 for a service that's probably not going to be here for the next, we don't know when, and we don't know how. I know it's essential. I don't know what the plans are for CTA at this point with the distancing that we have. There are a lot of jobs that have been closed down. And of course, the city it's going to be in a strain in itself over the next couple of weeks. So what do we do? Do we spend money that, we possibly may not have? I don't know. But right now, it's real sketchy in which direction we need to go, especially with the way this virus is going. We're not bringing in revenue. The casinos, they're gone. Right now, we don't know if they're going to be a month, 2 months. We have no idea. So should we give that away? Just as you say, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. But right now, every little bit counts. So we need to make a decision on which way we need to go.
Mr. President, let me ask also at the time, it's timely that, Kevin, I know that y'all meeting daily, and not just with this particular situation, but the whole route scheme and so forth, and there's maybe a coast-wide quarantine, which kind of pulls things off the table. May ask not only this route, or, what do you see as the future? What we're guessing, and so everybody's uncertain about a lot of things, and unknown is out there, and we need to address the concerns of the citizens, number one, and the people who use your service. So I'm not asking you to forecast the future, but this is a very specific thing. But what do you see down the road on the usage of CTA?
Mayor, let me add to that real quick. And because the casinos, and we're talking about the beachcomber that goes down, is there could something be prorated also to throw that in?
Two is other, the governor's exercised some options that can supplement maybe that to, because we're going to take, out of all the municipalities, we're going to take the biggest hit without question. And, again, we've been working the numbers and working projections. And so do you see any opportunity to supplant when it's appropriate that route or all routes to, I think we're in the tune of 300,000 plus, and that's a part of our millions of dollars we're thinking. So what are you feeling with regard to the governor's, I guess, executive words and thoughts to help us recover? Because we're right there in number one as far as what's at risk for the city of Biloxi.
Yes, thank you. I want to start off by recognizing Mr. Lloyd Hebert. He's chairman of the CTA Board of Commissioners. Your two representatives, Mr. Wilson, as you all know, Dick Wilson is in ill health, and so he's not able to be here today. And Mike Strojny is dealing with coronavirus-related issues, just like we all are. Our management staff meets every day at 9 o'clock. We're going to do calls on the weekends, and this thing it is changing daily. I appreciate that. We're out there running today, and we're going to continue to run until the point where we're directed not to operate or it's unsafe for our employees to operate. And, we have policies and procedures and protective equipment for our employees, and we're doing all those things we need to do to make sure our employees are safe and the riding public is safe. You know, I keep hearing you need to take care of your citizens, and I just want to say we're carrying your citizens. We're serving your citizens. That's what we do, all the citizens on the Gulf Coast. 35% of the fixed route bus ridership is work-related. Nobody knows how long this is going to last. Hopefully it's a matter of weeks. We just don't know. But when the business is trying to get back up and running, they're going to need us to transport their employees, to reestablish their businesses. This thing is going to be a serious economic problem for citizens, working people, which is who we're carrying. And they're going to need transportation. They're going to need low-cost transportation to get to work, to make it work for them, just like they did during good economic times. I've got all this data here today. I'll just leave some of this over here. I don't even know if you want to even touch any of it. I wouldn't blame you if you don't, any of this paperwork, because I understand the situation. You know, I was a germaphobe as I get older. Before this happened, because I'm working 6 days a week already. I don't have time to get sick, and now I'm really a germaphobe. So, you know, we'll get through all this together and come out the other end okay. So, you know, as far as financing is, and I don't know what opportunities there are going to be for additional money to supplant local government subsidies. We don't know that yet. All of that is an unknown. I would imagine at some point in time there would be, but, you know, our directive right now is to use the money we have, which requires local match. The formula hasn't changed. And, you know, we talked about formula, and I know some of you still would like to spend a little bit more time at a later date talking about the funding formula, and I would appreciate an opportunity to do that at the appropriate time. And, you know, our community is going to need good public transit for the community to get back on its feet. Mr. Hebert has a letter from Mr. Chet Harrison, who is a board member, who is the GM from Golden Nugget Casino, and he was intending on being here today. And Chris, you want to give him whoever's appropriate, the council member that's running the meeting, and a copy of the letter. Mr. Hebert, you want to read it? Say some words.
Are y'all okay when we just sit up here with Kevin? That'd be all right, I appreciate it. So again, Chet is the vice president and general manager of the Golden Nugget, and he wanted to be here, but he just couldn't. Now that we have all this going on, this was dated today, and I'm not. Mayor, did you get a copy?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, I'll read it.
Read it.
I'm sorry I'm unable to address you in person today. Obviously, the circumstances that have occurred precluded me from appearing in front of you on this important matter. I know there's a survey as to the number of tourists versus workers who use the Beachcomber. I'm here to tell you that I do not need a survey to tell you what I see daily. A high percentage of our frontline employees use the service to get to and from work. I not only see them getting off at the stop under the Golden Nugget, but also at the bus stop I can see from my office window just west of our property. I'd further like to point out that these employees are in positions that have been difficult to fill, i.e., somebody have to tell me what EVS is, housekeeping, stewards, etc. Ceasing weekday service will only exacerbate that ongoing issue. These people have no other means. I hope that you take this into strong consideration. Even though my position is in support of getting employees to and from work, I encourage you to get the data for how many locals use this to get to our properties. And he offers his access to himself for questions. I'm going to let y'all get back to asking Kevin questions. I want to make one comment. And I know that we're under a crisis right now, but 7 months ago, when we came to the workshop, we weren't. And then 5 months ago, we weren't. And all these questions have been answered time and time again, really. And I'm a small business guy. I choose to sit on Coast Transit's board as a service to my community. We are not a charity. We serve the underserved in our community. we are a partner to the city, and we want the city to know how much we want to be here doing our part. But, and I'm open to questions too, if you'd like to ask me some questions.
I have a few. So you said we've answered questions time and time again. I got a few, if you could re-answer them. Number one, your budgeted fare year-to-date versus your actual fares year-to-date, can you tell me what that number is?
Fare box year-to-date on the Biloxi service is 134,000. The budget was 135,400, so it's 1,400 under budget on fares, which is pretty close on a $135,000 budget. It's pretty close.
Okay, and this has been a critical question we've asked numerous times, and you probably know where I'm going on your fuel cost budgeted
Yes, sir.
versus your fuel cost actual. Do you actually have that figure?
I do.
Okay.
I do want to make a point. I've made this point in the past, and I just want to reiterate. Fuel is 7% of the overall budget.
All right.
Right now, the budget, expense budget is 2.2 million. So to answer your question precisely, at this point in time, the Biloxi service is $6,622 under budget on fuel. That's through 4 months, October through January.
And
so
is that,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that an actual number or a percent of the revenue that you're just using that 7%?
So we don't keep a separate set of books for the Biloxi service. It's using percentages. Biloxi is consuming 43% of the fixed route bus service, so I'm applying the 43% to the system.
All right, so the system fuel cost number is an actual number? It's an actual number, not a percent. It's an actual number that you're using. It's not, you're not just running it as a, all right, this is my actual revenue, so I'm just going to apply 7%.
It's an identified specific number for fuel. Our bookkeeping, our record expense keeping is very detailed line item by line items, and as I said, fuel is just one of the line items. But so, I'd like to take this opportunity, I'm not going to take a lot of time today, but we operate on the enterprise system of business, like public utility does. We take the whole, we project what the cost is going to be at a fiscal year, and then we divide that by how much service we're going to provide, unit of measure. If we were a water department, it would be thousands of gallons of water. Y'all have a city water system. So our unit of measure is fixed route hours of service. That's where the $73 comes from. So we don't look at it as a bunch of individual businesses. We look at everything we do. We serve the Gulf Coast community, all 3 counties, and Ocean Springs, D'Iberville, Biloxi, and Gulfport. So our bookkeeping system is not set up to track those expenses individually, which, yes, we track ridership. I can tell you exactly what the ridership is. That's where the fare box revenue came from, is ridership. We track those numbers precisely, but I have to apply percentages to the cost to figure out what your share of expenses is.
And I've only got a couple more questions. So your total, since you seem to have the total numbers and not necessarily the specific Biloxi numbers, your total budgeted profit or revenue, net revenue, is it above or below the actual? Is it below your budget or above the budget?
Right now, the expense budget is $2,222,700, and we're up system-wide. After 4 months of operations, it fluctuates month to month. We're at $28,389, 1.3% surplus. Very, very small. So we're right on budget right now for the entire system.
That's what I'm saying. So for the entire system, you're up how much on your net revenue?
28,000.
You're 28,000 above what you budgeted to date.
Yes, that's correct.
Of course, recent events can change that drastically. I don't have any other comments right now.
So let's suppose a couple of hours from now or an hour from now, we're going to vote on this issue. If it's not approved, what actions does CTA take at this point? What's the process, Mr. Coggin, that you'll follow if you leave here empty-handed today?
Well, I can speak for the subsidy factor, the dollar part of it, and I'll let Lloyd talk about, the chairman of the board, what his reaction to that would be. You know, there was a discussion at the last meeting where we were asked to come back in March originally, and then it was January, and here we are March again. There was some discussion about we've been paying the local match shortage since October with the hope of and the faith that more money may be coming. You know, there was not a commitment from you all to that, but there was some discussion about reimbursing us for what we paid for so far. I can tell you when as we continue to operate, and I don't think we're going to discontinue fixed route operations long, and hopefully we won't, that when we start again, there's going to be a local match shortage in Biloxi. So I can't speak for the board, but the chairman's right here. He can give you his take on it, on what we would do with that, with that local match shortage for the Beachcomber route.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is we have ran in good faith since we were asked to. I don't think we've been overly bullish or pushy. We're just trying to move on and handle our business, be fiscally responsible like you guys are here with the money that we have. And then since our money gets compounded, local match to federal, then we have to take all that into account. Now, we have a meeting Thursday, and a big part of our meeting is going to be what the big part of your meeting today is going to be about. How does the coronavirus affect Coast Transit, and what do we have to do? I would personally like to see our funding restored, and it's a non-issue for us. That's what I would like to see. It will be an item on our agenda if it's not. And it'll be up to our board to, we have to go into 30-day public comment. We can't just stop anything. So even if we were to tell you guys that the 2-day service is what we need to do, we still have to go into public comments. We have to put on meetings, and right now we've got an issue with doing that, right? So, but I'll tell you from this side of the table, that's not what we want. Every year we want our service in the city of Biloxi to grow with the community. That's what we want. We're not trying to take away service.
And I guess really my point in all this, because I remember Mr. Coggin mentioning that there was a public hearing or public comment as part of the process if you're eliminating a route or whatever, and I'm assuming that's required because of the federal subsidies that you get. That's part of the process. So even if the route stops, it's not next week there is no more route. You still have a process to follow to kind of phase out that route, if you will, so people have some notice. It doesn't make their hardship any easier. It just gives them a little more time, hopefully, that they can rearrange their schedules to get to work and to get back from work. And from what you said on the budget, I think you said you were 28,000 to the good, more or less?
That's for the entire system.
For the entire system.
And that change, you all well know, we're going through the same thing you are. That is going to change drastically.
Exactly. Everybody's in the same boat to that respect.
When we start running service again, our ridership is going to be low, and our fare box is revenue is going to tank. But the people that really need it, or the most economically vulnerable people of our society, are going to need that bus to go to work. This has been going on since October, and I would just simply ask you all, please vote on it. However you're going to vote, just vote. Right. We can't continue to run this to the end of the year with no decision made. All the other cities have paid what we asked. We asked for a small increase. I've discussed this with you all before, and I'm asking you, just please vote on it so I can go to my board and tell them what your decision is, and they can make a decision.
Thank you.
I have a question. You said when service is restored, what services are not running right now?
We're running everything right now.
Okay.
I mean, I'm anticipating at some point in time, and we are, we have a plan to scale back and/or discontinue services.
Even with the casinos closing, you're still running those services or no?
Well, we are currently, but we're fixing to scale back because the ridership's not there. So we have to give people notice.
Yes.
You know, some transit systems will just say today, you know, we cut in half the service out. We can't do that to our people. I'm not going to do that to your people and our riders. We got to give them at least a day's notice. But we are planning on scaling back. Like the casino hopper, all the casinos are closed. We're going to take one bus off of service.
I have another question. So hypothetically, let's just say that the 1:30 meeting, a vote is taken and additional funding is not passed. At some point, y'all will implement a 30-day notice to shut that service off. If during that 30-day window, all of this goes away and we go, okay, we're good, could we give you the $45,000 then and that 30 days? And this is just a question. There's two council people that aren't here, and that they'll probably be at the 1:30 meeting for the vote. And so that's just a question I thought of last time after the fact. You know, if it was voted, you know, not to give the funding, and in that 30-day period we saw that things were turning, or if a massive amount of money coming from the government to ease worries of some people, would those routes, could you withdraw that 30 days and continue the service if that did happen?
Absolutely, and that's what the 30-day period is for, is to communicate to the community what our intentions are and get feedback and consider everything that was said and done about it, and it's happened that way sometimes. Sometimes we've gone into a 30-day public comment period with a proposal. So it's not a situation where we're definitively going to discontinue this route and we're giving you 30 days notice. It's literally a comment period, and at the end of that 30-day comment period, I have to, and my staff, analyze everything that was said and done and look at alternatives, whatever the case may be, and then present to the board what our recommendation is, and then they act on it. So it is not, the 30-day public comment period does not mean we are definitively going to discontinue this service. The end result could be something other than that.
Okay, and that's all the questions I really have. I think there will be a lot of questions to ask of our administration and Mr. Leonard that doesn't necessarily deal with this at our 1:30 meeting. That will determine, you know, how some people vote. And it may be something you can answer, but I saw where the Public Service Commission come out and said that 60 days, no public entities can cut off any public service, water, sewer, power, so on. So let's just say that everybody in the city for 60 days decided not to pay their water bill. What's the financial impact of that on a monthly basis? What do we bring in for water? What does it cost us? And so that's you know, there's a lot of questions that we have to ask like that, because if we didn't get any assistance and something, God forbid, like that happened, I mean, that would be a major hit to the city. And so I think during that meeting, I think that, you know, Mike will give us some updates on budget stuff as well. So I believe that some of those questions need to be asked. As Kenny and Felix and everyone else has said, we're in a time that 4 days ago, I mean, I had 2 vacations that I was fixing to, I was going on a cruise next week. And so,
That's not good.
And so, you know, our lives have changed. My wife's a school teacher, and you know, I have 2 kids that are in school, and everything, they got notices today that we may not be going back to school this year. People that work at the schools that are hourly employees, the state is guaranteeing them 10 days of pay, and after that. And so there's a lot of, you know, and I know that has nothing to do specifically with the city, but everybody's life has changed in the last 72 hours drastically. And so I believe that we have to ask some of those questions at that meeting, and hopefully we can come to a decision and move forward. And George, go ahead.
I'd just ask one question either to Kevin or the chairman of the board. Y'all being a public entity, do y'all have an independent audit every year?
Yes, we have a annual independent audit that we have to turn in to the Federal Transit Administration and MDOT. So we have that every year.
Do y'all turn it into our administration, you said?
I'm sorry,
Do y'all turn it into the administration here?
we do not. We could, we certainly could. Sometimes we get asked and by cities and sometimes we don't, but certainly it's public knowledge. We'd be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. If you have that, it'd be good to bring that to the administration anyway, at least.
Yes, sir.
And if
Yes.
they need to expand it to us, then they could do that.
Certainly we can do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Coggin, please, I mean, we don't want to be in an adversarial position with CTA. We recognize the good work that you do, the service that you provide, and if there's a need, like the council has said before, we want to make sure to fund you for that essential need, number one. However, just as we depend on, more or less, we have a $60 million budget. About a third of it comes from gaming revenues, a third comes from ad valorem taxes, and about another third comes from sales taxes, roughly. Those things are being impacted, and we haven't, this body hasn't really got together to assess and see how we're going to fit the round peg in the square hole ourselves. And so this is a different meeting than what we anticipated a week ago. We were going to come in here. Listen, I've been giving it a lot of thought. There's certainly a need. You've answered some questions today, but I mean, there's a lot of unknowns that is happening for all of us. And, look, when we get through all this, at the end of it, we're going to be stronger and better, and we'll be addressing, services and other things that are essential for our citizens. But I just wanted to make that very clear.
Are there any other questions? Anything else you guys would like to say?
No, I'm good. Do I need one?
Okay, so that concludes the workshop.
Yeah, you need a motion to recess? So move.
I'll move it.
To adjourn then, thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the
Move it.
motion?
All right,
5-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, man.
He's on the phone. He wants to do it.
Right.